I have a motto, and I always say, don't tell me no, tell me how.
First of all, the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, is the realist.
You're right. There isn't enough time to work on your business if you're working in your business.
And so they'll give you the recipe, but you have to go bake the cake, you know?
The village that we live 2 miles away from, they gave me a building. They said, can you do something with this? And I said...
Welcome back to Connections in Cowlitz, your favorite local podcast, sponsored by Serpro of Longview, Kelso, and JoJo and Coco Boutique. I'm Katie Keaton, your Southwest Washington realtor.
And I'm Gabby Graves, your hometown lender.
And today we are connecting with Monica Seidl. She is with the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Council of Governments.
Good job.
Claps to me. I got it right.
Yeah.
She is also the incoming president of the Longview Morning Edition Rotary and the founder of Belize Blessings. So basically, we have a lot to talk about today.
A whole lot.
And we are going to just jump right in. Hello, Monica.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. You are a busy woman, so thank you for making time in your schedule.
Absolutely. I appreciate you ladies doing this in the community.
Well, thank you. It's definitely a passion project. We enjoy it a lot, so thank you. We're glad other people enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. It just opens everybody's eyes to what's in our community.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes, you know, when you do something for the first time, and I'm sure you can understand that, it's hard. You feel like you have a great idea, but you're not sure if other people will enjoy. And sometimes, you know, you go and you see, you can always count on our sisters and our spouses to like our stuff. But like when you hear other people liking our stuff, it always feels good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of things that we're all working on, we have connected recently with you again just because there are some big things happening over at the Three Rivers Mall, the Three Rivers Crossing. And so you and I have been talking about small businesses in general. Mm-hmm. And of course, that is a big focus of what you do at the Council of Governments. And leading off of that, I was like, oh, let's go ahead and have Monica on the podcast.
Yes.
So let's just talk about the Cowlitz of Governments in general, what you do, and how that impacts small businesses in our area.
Sure. So when I started with the COG 3 years ago, I wasn't even sure what they did either. So I was attending my morning Rotary meeting and was looking for a job after a change of careers. And so learning that it's a transportation local planning agency that also encompasses economic development, small business development, and my past history was bank manager, and so many times when a business would come in and be a startup and they would need funding to be able to, you know, have those things that are needed to start their business and start that journey,
right,
I would have to say no, not at this time. And so how frustrating to see somebody's passion and somebody's excitement just to be turned away because they don't fit in a bank lending box.
Right.
So coming over to the Council of Governments, all of a sudden I realized some of the programs that we offer really step in that gap and can help. There's a Longview revolving loan fund that people can apply for if they've been declined for a conventional bank loan. They can actually go to the City of Longview website and apply for a revolving loan fund that offers them the opportunity to get the financing that they need to start their business or to grow their business. So we have a Lower Columbia investment network that specifically the COG focuses on bringing together people in the community that potentially could invest in local businesses that are needing to either start or scale. And we bring them together, and it's a whole network series of startup entrepreneurs or growing entrepreneurs that can get connected with local investors in the community that can make that difference and make that happen for them.
Yeah.
That is huge because, I mean, that is just huge. I appreciate that so much on a lot of levels. I have very much an entrepreneurial spirit, and scaling up is hard in any company because, let's be honest, it takes money. That's scaling up means hiring people costs money. And so having kind of bridging the, you know, the gap between business owner and investor is hard to do. It's hard to do. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I always laugh that the Council of Governments, COG, is the center of giving because it's easier to remember. But also we help with facilitating finances from government grants that can be trickled down into our local economy and into local projects at the grassroots level. So when we teach grant writing classes, we just had one in Cowlitz and Wahkiakum. We had over 50 people attend those 2 classes just for a couple hours to learn how they can have access to grants, where they find them, what goes into a grant, and people have asked for those to continue.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who just started a business. They're about to open their doors. And it's a piercing studio, and they decided to open up in Olympia. But when they had the idea, I was talking to them, and it's like, okay, maybe you talk to this bank or do this, or you know what I mean? And listening to her go through the process and get turned down multiple times, and the frustration, like you said, when you're the bank person that has to say yes or no, and you're like, oh, sorry, like not quite ready. You have to show some income, and it's like, you know, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? I need to start the business to show that I can run the business and get money for the business. So having those things in place where it's like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's take a breath. There are ways for you to get off the ground, and we can show you how.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I had no clue that you guys even existed and did this. Like, there's definitely such a need for this.
And there really is. And to be able to get it out in front of the community, I have a motto, and I always say, don't tell me no, tell me how. Because it might not be today, but it might be tomorrow. And so trying to bridge that gap, and that's really what we're trying to do in the community, is find a need and fill a need. And so as you look at the county as a whole, some of those needs range all the way from tourism, local recreation, you know, where do you go for the resources that you need? Who do you talk to? There's no yellow pages anymore. It's so difficult to navigate sometimes and find those access to services or resources that people so desperately need, and they don't know who to talk to first.
Mm-hmm. So true. That is fascinating. I love that. Connections in Cowlitz is sponsored by locally owned and operated ServPro of Longview Kelso. They are the #1 residential and commercial cleanup company in the United States. They help with fire damage, smoke damage, mold remediation, and so much more. Remember, you as a homeowner and business owner have a say as to who comes into your business or home. Locally owned, locally operated, ServPro of Longview Kelso.
We are also sponsored by JoJo and Coco Boutique, a woman-owned business where they focus on the relationship, not the sale. The styles are quality. They're timeless pieces that work for women of literally any age. Stop in for you or someone you love. You'll leave in stylish pieces and feeling great about yourself. JoJo and Coco Boutique on Commerce Avenue in Hudson.
So I also heard that you guys have clinics or classes where you sit down and help small business owners write a business plan, file for their Secretary of State filing, their business license filing, and you literally walk them through the administrative part, the paperwork part that a lot of people don't know how to do, and they don't have the money to pay an accountant or an attorney to do it for them.
And that's very true. And, you know, I always tie it back into, if I give you a hammer, that doesn't mean that you know how to use that tool, and doesn't mean that you know how to build a house. And so what we've tried to do is we've tried to create toolkits. And so we have our toolkit here that we have in English and Spanish, and it walks people through a business plan projecting out for a year. And we have it online, downloadable, so you can fill it in on the computer if you want to, or we have an actual copy that you can take and kind of make it your journal and your business journey of a plan. And
Nice.
So we partner with lots of different organizations in the community, and that's one of the things that's so great, that collaboration, that working together. And I don't want to reinvent something that's already being provided. So we partnered with LCC last year, and we had a pilot program, what you're talking about. And instead of expecting people to go home and do homework, because we know we were in school once, it's not always that you go home and do your homework.
Right.
So these classes that we are starting in April is a series, and it's $100. It's so inexpensive. So it's like $20 a class. There's 5 classes, and each class, while you're there, you will be going to the state agency. You will be filing for your name, your IRS.gov, learning whether you're a sole prop or an LLC. And so I've partnered with business professionals in the community to teach each segment along the way, because I don't know everything. I don't know commercial insurance. I don't know all of the bookkeeping and all of the tax liabilities, but somebody in the community does. So we have them teach their series, their class on that day, because they're the professional. They see this every day. So helping people before they even begin, or while they're in the middle of this and struggling, what do we do? Where do we go? And so they walk them through step by step, class by class. And so we call them entrepreneur action classes, because you are taking the action while you're sitting there. In 90 minutes, you are actually either signing up for a business bank account because you have a business professional that's there telling you how to do this from a bank in our community. And I don't know, can I mention sponsors and people?
Yes, of course.
So Twin City Bank and David Vasquez is wonderful to work with. And he comes in and he teaches commercial banking. But we also share with the people that are in the class, you don't have to sign up with Twin City. You can go to Fiber, you can go to Red Canoe, whoever your local bank is, go talk to them and see if that's the right fit for you. If it's not, David's a resource as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So this is called the Entrepreneur Action Plan Workshop. Like you said, seriously, $100. Like, this is invaluable. This is priceless information.
This is priceless information. If you went to an attorney and a CPA who bill at over $200 an hour, which they should, they're experts. I'm not talking down on that. It would cost you a couple $1,000s to get your business started if you don't have those skills. So this is phenomenal. I am so thrilled that you do this for people. I used to work at a CPA firm, so we would help people do this. And that's something that's kind of like a little pet project of like the one thing I haven't let go of is like if I have friends that are starting nonprofits or starting businesses, they're like, Gabby, how do you do this?
Okay, I have to laugh because Gabby and I are in the process of starting an LLP, is what we decided that we need. Little inside baseball for you guys. But when Gabby was filling all this stuff out and doing this for us, which I would not know how, I would be struggling. I plan on going to one of your action plan workshops. I've been talking about it. I would have had no idea. And Gabby is just zooming through it, and she goes, don't tell anyone I know how to do this, because she doesn't want people to know. So now I'm
not a gatekeeper. I'm just busy. Go to Monica.
No, I just heard that I have a guest speaker for one of my classes, maybe.
Actually, yes, I would love that. Yes,
but
and I have a board you can sit on.
Oh, I have enough of those as well. But it is one of those things that when you start talking to people and realize one of their gifts and their strengths,
right.
That is what we're looking for,
yes.
is to connect different people with somebody that really does have that as a strength in them. Because, like I said, I don't know everything. I have a lot of weaknesses. I have a lot of things that I don't know how to do that. But when I find somebody that has that strength, I lean into them and say, hey, just this little piece, just this little support.
Absolutely. And Katie always mentions how one of the best things that you can do is have mentors, different kinds of mentors, and not just as a young kid, but as an adult, have different types of mentors in different categories. So this is kind of like a mentor workshop. Like you're getting like the gold star of all the local hotshots that can help you do stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah. First of all, the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know, is the realest. It is the realest
so
thing in the world.
True. Nobody knows what they're doing, honestly. They all just fake it and ask for help.
Yeah. But one of the reasons we started this was because I love small business. We love small business. I used to work at the radio station where all my clients were small businesses. Like, I just have a heart for small business.
Me too.
And it is so hard to get started. But one thing that I have learned from working with those people, from working with amazing entrepreneurs and business owners, from the people that we interview who have made change in our community and are, bright shining lights to our community, so many of them, they are successful. And what I've learned is that successful people like to share in their success.
Yeah. Yep.
They are not gatekeeping it.
Nope.
And if you ask someone for help or advice, most of the time, those people are willing to give you the advice.
Absolutely.
And they want to share it with you. Not saying you should just call up some random person and be like, tell me how to run a business. I'm not saying that, guys.
Right.
But, people like this where it's like, yeah, I would love to teach a class. I would love to share my wisdom.
Absolutely.
Those people want to give advice and help.
Yeah.
Help people grow because it helps our entire community. Like, communities are run on small business. So.
Well, and what a lot of those people know, what we have learned is that the hard part is not the how, it's the consistency in doing. And so these successful people want to help you succeed. They will give you the roadmap because they know that the true hard part is every day committing a small amount of time to executing that.
And that's on you.
And that's on you. And
Yes.
so they'll give you the recipe, but you have to go bake the cake, you know? And so that's truly the hard grind in it all. So
And you're right, it is. I can give you a tool, but I'm not going to use it. This is for you to use. This is your path. This is your journey.
Absolutely. So can you tell us first of all, tell us how many of these action plan workshops you guys have done so far. And then if you could, I would love to hear if you have any success stories that you could shout out.
yeah.
And so there's a few different ones, but we taught these last year, realizing that this was a need in the community. And I also teach this at Style Masters. So I go in there, and because they're a cosmetology
smart.
school, they're
So
learning their cosmetology licensing and all of those types of things, but they're not learning to start their own business.
You should teach this to realtors.
You really should.
And that's the opportunity. But when you find that you've got a captive audience of a group of people that are all there in that learning phase, that's when you come alongside of them and say, would you like to know a little more? And so that's one of those things, that finding the opportunity. And we've talked about going over to Three Rivers Crossing,
Yes.
and offering the business owners that are over there advice and support. And then if they are going to have to exit the mall because it doesn't fit within their model of how they run their store, can we help them find another location that either can be a shared space, or South Kelso has some storefront locations that maybe that would be a better fit for them. So helping them to find and navigate their way through of, if this isn't the space and the time, where is that and what does that look like? And sometimes it is, sometimes it's shared spacing. Teaching vendors how to be a home-based business, that cottage type. Food trucks, where do people go to get the information before they go through all of these steps and all of these heartaches to find out that, I just can't do this. This is a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Wouldn't you rather know that at the beginning than once you've invested all this time and all of this money into those types of things? So,
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the fact that probably realtors need a lesson on business planning, the cosmetologist, and so many times with licenses like that, you're in the trenches of learning how to actually do
The profession. Yes.
Like you're learning how to cut hair and style and things like that. But it's like, once you're done with the schooling, it's like, hey, you're a business owner. You have to learn how to have a business. Really, at the end of the day, you're always, no matter what you're doing, if you're owning a business, you have to market. You have to do your taxes. You have to do all of these different things that they did not teach you when they were teaching you how to do a perm.
You have to keep up to speed on law changes, on government changes and regulations. You have to maybe you have to fill out a new piece of paperwork every year. Maybe you have to pay a new tax every year. You have to keep up on all that stuff. And that's really, I think that the fear of not knowing and the fear of failure is what keeps a lot of people out of the game. And so, if you have a passion, whatever that is, and you want to try to turn it into a small business, this is the way to learn entrepreneurship, learn how to start a business, and so don't be scared, just write it out in steps and attend some of these workshops.
Okay, so going back to one of my last questions, what is the mix of people that you typically see attending these? Like, what are the industries or the businesses? Like, is there a trend in who's coming in to these, or?
I would say that most of them are hopefuls, and they want to know, is this even going to work? And so we had a lady last year that wanted to open a hot dog stand. And she wants to have a mobile hot dog stand, but she wants to make it to where she could be outside certain businesses. At the mills, she knows that a location is one of the most expensive overhead costs. And so she's wanting it to be mobile. And so then she went to Sweet Beck's and even talked to her about, hey, could you make me a small bun if I started selling smaller hot dogs, like a kid's meal size? And I loved the idea. And she says, I'm going to call them puppies. And I was like, oh, that's so cute.
That's so cute.
You have a hot dog stand and you have little puppies for the
That's
kids as a
adorable.
kid's meal. Love the idea, walking her through the steps of, what that looks like and how that's going to play out in the future. We've had people that have soaps and scrubs and natural, and something works for them. They want to share it with the community, so they walk through the steps of, starting a business, because there are those things that just having a business card doesn't mean that you are a business owner and that you're in the trenches. And so many times, you're right, there isn't enough time to work on your business if you're working in your business. And so having people come alongside of you. SCORE is a free mentorship that is nationwide. The SBDC, Small Business Development Center, we have one now on campus at LCC, but it's open to the community. You just go through the steps of going to the website, signing up, and Kyle Todd is a local resource, free for people to talk to. These people are there to help day in and day out. I'm a connector, so under what I do, I work with childcare, I work with tourism, I work with small business development. It's not just one different segment of the community, it's that whole community development. So when I say I'm a planner and I'm a doer, though, at the same time, so it's really hard for me to say, here, this is something you should do, because then I put it on my own back and I'm like, oh, I can do this, I can do these classes. But then that's when I find the partners and say, actually, LCC, can you do this? This is something we found. Can you take this and run with this?
Well, and we love connectors, obviously, here on Connections and Cowlitz. Speaking of, okay, first of all, can you repeat what is at LCC that is the free resource, just for the people if they missed it in the back?
Yes. So the Small Business Development Center, it's called SBDC. The SBA of federal governments has this program, and Kyle Todd is on LCC campus about 3/4 of the month. The rest of the time he's at Grace Harbor, he's in Wahkiakum, he's a traveling rover. But his services are absolutely free if you go to the website and sign up with him. SCORE mentors are retired business owners that have been in the trenches for years, and if you Google search SCORE mentors, you will have a mentor that walks alongside of you. They call, they check in with you, they offer their support and their services. Marcel in our community meets with all these different startup businesses, and they really help vet, where are you at? Because really, some people have a $1 million pie in the sky idea as well, and you have to help them come back down to earth. So not every business is going to go through that process, but we do try to help navigate them and answer those questions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What about success stories? Do you have any local Shark Tank success stories?
And so every time we get to that point, then either somebody is like, well, this is kind of proprietary, so I don't want to share too much, or they're like, I don't want somebody to steal my idea, and so they get really careful about those things. But we are looking for those successes. So we have helped a couple businesses in the community get access to funding, because truly there's other resources as well as CDFIs, which are I hate acronyms in the government, but they're necessary, because otherwise then you get the mouthful that you're trying to spit out all the time of what they stand for. But there's other ways of creative financial support, and access to capital, I think, is one of the major hurdles for small businesses. I have this great idea. I've now built my plan. Now how do I start up and fund this beginning? So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and talking about one other thing, a conversation I had with you recently, and I don't think it was an acronym, but it was a bunch of S's for kind of a different, do you know what I'm talking about?
The startup, the scale up, and the succession planning.
Yes. So I called Monica recently just because I've been toying around with opening a different business. We're entrepreneurs, people. Anyway, talking to her, and she's like, honestly, girl, she didn't say that, but basically, girl, what you need to do is see if you have someone who is transitioning out of that field that has had a successful business, but would like a succession plan, because a lot of times that can work better in certain industries.
So smart. Yes, because you already have the built-in clientele. You already have the reputation that you're kind of like buying or paying for, right? And sometimes even things like equipment, maybe or whatever, maybe space, property, real estate space, if they have a shop of some kind. And so that is a very smart idea.
And there are so many businesses that are wanting to scale back or to transition into retirement. And if their son or their grandson doesn't want that business anymore, who do they turn to?
Right.
And Washington State has a program where employees actually can buy out their owner, and there's all kinds of tax credits. There's all kinds of benefits to doing that as well. But yeah, stepping into somebody else's business that you're passionate about, work with them and connect with them, and you might be able to come on board, and in 3 years this might be your business. I know several people in the industry right now that are looking for somebody to take over their business, but they're wanting to make sure that it's the right fit and that something that they've put their 20 years of blood, sweat, and tears into is going to be put in the hands of somebody that's going to love it, nurture it, and continue it just like them. But those are successful already, so why not step into that opportunity?
Very much. Yeah, that is very smart. That, in fact, that's intriguing.
I know.
I'm intrigued.
Hopefully we're getting all of your brains percolating as well. But that's exactly why we wanted Monica on, because every time I talk to her, I'm like, oh, great point. Oh, fantastic. Oh, I hadn't thought of that before. So, as a connector, we
It's
really
that
appreciate
squirrel
it.
brain, yes.
We all have it. Everyone sitting at this table is a squirrel. I say that with complete confidence.
Yes.
So let's go ahead, unless you have anything else that you want to talk about small business-wise. Should we transition to some of the other things that you do?
Yes.
Sure, there's a list.
There's a list.
I want to hear about Belize Blessings.
Okay, so Belize Blessings is just a passion project that really came about just miraculously. So I've been doing missions work for over 20 years. I love taking vacations and traveling, but I like helping people. So having that come together, I've traveled to Brazil and Ecuador, and 7 years ago I found my way to Belize, and we now have a little place down there. And of course, when you live someplace and you start looking at some of the needs, that's where I jump in with both feet and be a fixer. And talking to the community and the neighbors down there, education was really necessary and lacking because of COVID. We know what our kids went through here.
Right.
Imagine in third world countries that don't have access to tablets the kids get to take home. And so we started talking about what that would look like for tutoring and mentoring. And the village that we live 2 miles away from, they gave me a building. They said, can you do something with this? And I said, yeah, I think I can. So we built a community library, and the Belize government came alongside of us after we got started and after we cleaned it all up, after we started manifesting it. I was coming home and asking everybody for their leftover library books or their tablets or their computers, and 50-pound suitcases at a time, I started hauling all of these supplies to Belize. And then once the government said, wow, look what you've done, we'll take over from here. Thank you. And so our library has been running almost 3 years now, and they're open 6 days a week, and they have workshops and classes and a library full of books and resources, and it's just been such a huge blessing. So then when I came home, I was like, wow, okay, well, now what? And education, health, and safety are, of course, always top of mind in any community. And so because we have a small village and we're trying to make it a self-sustaining community, health was the next thing. And so with the help of Rotary, Kiwanis, Altrusa, and lots of community donations and volunteers, we bought an ambulance, and we took it down there 2 years ago. So we have an ambulance running in Belize, and we had volunteers drive it through. So that was just one more
That is so
amazing
exciting.
step. And so then when I came home, my husband goes, "Are you done yet?" And I said, "Nope." It was almost like hold my beer, or hold my coffee.
I've had those moments, because once you have success in something wild, you're like, what can't I do?
And the possibilities just start to come up. And so
Yes.
the next conversation was safety. And there was an abandoned building that was a police station years ago. And I think over 10 years, it's been sitting dilapidated and damaged. And so I went and I talked to the police officer down there, and I said, okay, you are half an hour, 40 minutes away from us. If there's an emergency and I even need to call, it's going to take forever. If I repair this building, if we get it in good condition, will you assign officers to run that? And he said, if you build it, they will come. I was like, okay.
True.
So I had a group of volunteers in May go down with me, and 4 of them were 72 years old.
Okay.
72-year-old women painting a concrete building police station in 108-degree weather.
Honestly, I'm not surprised because that group of people get stuff done.
Yes, very true.
It is amazing. And so in September, it opened its doors, and the officer has made 16 arrests since then. And then they're petty crimes and, domestic violence or disorderly conduct. Thankfully, there's nothing too dangerous in our little village that he's had to be a part of. But at the same time, those are those things that we keep building out to make this community stronger and have the pride in their community. And I take volunteers, and we call them voluncations, because while you're there, you're going to see some really cool things in Belize. And I make sure that you see all kinds of different aspects, Mayan ruins, waterfalls that you can swim underneath. It's magical. And so the next project is a dentist and eye clinic. And so I went back down there and said, okay, my husband said I can do one project a year, one project, because otherwise then I get a little bit far out there and a little too many things going. And so they said, well, here's another building. Can you use this?
Oh,
and
my, how many buildings have they given you? The third one?
Well,
that's so great.
It's amazing the partnerships and they've seen the proof.
Yes.
The libraries, they're open and running in the community. They've seen the police station. They've seen the ambulance. And so I said, okay, well, this is what we're going to do now. So I need dental equipment. I need eye equipment. If you're transitioning and you are remodeling your clinic, I need a little trailer to throw all that stuff in. But I've got volunteers that will drive it all the way to Belize. And if you want to go on our next trip, I will be there for a month between April and May. And you're welcome to come down and join our team.
Okay, so you need
volunteers.
Yep. You need a trailer, a small trailer. You need eye equipment and dental equipment.
Yes.
We have a whole lot of dentists in Cowlitz County.
And thankfully, Dr. Tack stepped up and has donated some eye equipment already.
Awesome.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that when you start putting your heart out there and the needs and you show vulnerability and say, would you like to partner with a piece of this puzzle? We've had people step forward with x-ray equipment. And so even Sean Green from Serve Pro, my gosh, he's a connector as well. And he's been connecting me with resources. And so it's just wonderful to see people step forward and be that. We always call it service above self. That's the Rotary model. And so when you start saying service above self and you have a little bit of sass in you, you start stepping into that.
Yes. Well, and it gives such pride. I mean, there's a few reasons that I love volunteering, but really I love being the example to my kids. I love my community. I want to make my community a better place for my family, but for my kids' family in the future. And I want them to see that you can't just want it, you have to do it. And so I try to really lead by example for my boys that, it doesn't matter how you give. Whatever you're passionate about, you can be a coach, you can, volunteer, you can donate equipment, whatever it is, but try to make your community a better place. So
And I left that in my kids as well. When I was traveling to Brazil, I took them both with me on missions trips, and they became friends. And then we brought Brazilians back with us. And I say I've had a bazillion Brazilians live at my house in the past. But at the same time, one of those Brazilians came up and fell in love with my daughter's best friend. And now he's an engineer in Portland. They have their first child. It's amazing that at first, I just had an extra bedroom. And I said, if you can use it, LCC has English as a second language courses that are so inexpensive, $25 for a whole quarter. So he went and improved English. Even though he spoke Portuguese, some of his classes were still in English. So when he went back to Brazil and finished his naval engineering degree, he was able to get a degree that meant something, but his English helped him transition as well.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah. That is so great. Well, we talk about the fact that it's like being a good leader because there are people that have an idea, whatever, but there are some people that want to lead or have the idea and then just delegate, which is great. At some point, you need to start delegating. But if you want people to follow you, you have to lead by example. You have to put your money where your mouth is. You
got to get your hands dirty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Once you start doing it, then people start thinking, wow, why not me? I could help. I could do this too.
Right.
And make a difference. So that's really exciting. And like you said, once you see the fruits of your labor, it becomes a lot easier to put the labor in.
It does, and it feels so good. Nothing feels better than helping somebody else with no expectation of return. Mm-hmm. I mean, seeing somebody feel just like blessed and gracious from your help, you're like, wow, I actually did that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't always have all the answers. I start a project, but I don't necessarily have the end in sight. And
Right.
so some people are always like, well, what happens if this happens? Well, what happens if that happens? And so, and I just say, I don't know. I'm just stepping out in faith. And one day at a time, I just take one more challenge and one more challenge. But if you don't start and you don't step into it, then it'll never happen. So I always tell people when they're starting a business, when they're starting a project, you have to take that first step of faith. And then once you do, it just keeps confirming, and the next day and the next day and the next day. So just wake up every day with that intention in your heart to get it done.
It's like that song in Frozen 2.
Yes.
You can tell I have an 8-year-old daughter. The next right thing or something like that. I was about to say the same thing is true, whether it's business, whether it's starting a passion project, you have to take it one step at a time and see where it takes you. And kind of just circling back to business, one thing I think that keeps people from starting things is that fear of failure. But it's like, literally, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You know what I mean? Start it. And there are lots of businesses who maybe they closed after 5-6 years, but that does not mean that they were a failure. Like, they were a stepping stone to something else. They taught you something. Same thing with, volunteer work. It's like, okay, I did this volunteer work for 3 years or however long. That has ran its course, but I met this person doing it. I'm on to my next volunteer project, or I'm on to my next business or whatever. They're stepping stones. It's okay just because you start a business or just because you start a project doesn't mean you have to do it until you retire.
Or until you franchise. Like, you don't have to build a mega something. You can live your passion and share it with others and make money doing it. And then you can also transition into other things. It's the pivot, the art of the pivot.
Right. And so many people talk about, well, what are you doing locally? Because, that's great that you're internationally helping. And there's so many great nonprofits in our community. There's so many people that do amazing things, and trying to connect them and bridge that. That's one of those wonderful things. It doesn't have to be. That's why I went to all of the clubs and said, I would love this to be a community event. They have Rotary clubs in Belize, and I've plugged myself in down there. And so I go to the Rotary Club meetings down there, and they've got hands and feet to do that service above self work. They don't always have the funding to do it. So when I come back here and do fundraising and do projects and do those types of things. But yeah, there's a lot of great nonprofits in our community, and it takes all of us just doing our little part. And like you said, it's the passion that comes through. Do something that you're passionate about that really touches your heart.
Right. You don't have to do it all. Just do what you know and are passionate about, because, and like you said, having a group like COG brings them together. High tides raise all ships.
We love that one around here.
We love that one.
We love a good saying. Well,
if I can remember how to say them.
That's true.
It's touch and go, people. If you've been watching.
Yeah, that's also true. Well, out of all the other things that you do, is there anything else you want to shout out, or maybe some events that are coming in a little bit? Like I said,
we record about 2 weeks in advance, so don't say anything that's happening in the next 14 days, because the people will miss it.
Right.
Well, and we don't want them to miss out. But I would just give a shout out to so many of the nonprofits, that I'm involved with as well, like 100 Women Who Cares. What a great networking opportunity for women to come together in one room and see all of the ideas and all of the empowerment that's in there. It's one of those things that I've been looking at as well, because as these grant classes come forward, you see people that want to come together and collaborate. So how about we have an Empower Hour, for women or for groups of people that are really just trying to find their niche and find out their way. And, the library, I don't know if it'll have enough time, but they're doing a volunteer event. And so they're wanting to make sure that people that have nonprofits that need volunteers come and get tapped into that and find a resource, find a passion, and be able to connect those things. But really, there's so many different agencies. Like I was saying, there's 100 Women Who Care. There's Altrusa. They focus on education and books and reading. And there's just every corner has an opportunity. So if you don't think you've ever been invited and you don't think you've ever been asked, everybody is out there wanting you to join, and you just have to raise your hand, because I heard that volunteerism is the great medicine for loneliness. You don't have to have a prescription.
That is so true.
You just have to have volunteerism, and that is the best prescription for loneliness. I heard that this weekend, and I thought, that is so,
that is so true.
That is so true. I've seen that in family members, actually. I can contest to that. And also, I think that, everyone sometimes as a community, a country, we're very divided. volunteerism's probably the medicine for that too. You know, again, take your passion, go help others with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I think that is the theme just of this episode is take your passion and follow it and see where it leads you. Ask if you have a question, ask
for help.
Ask for help, and you can get there. So let's tell everyone where they can get this kit.
So they can get this kit directly from the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Council of Governments.org website.
Okay.
We do have them in some of the libraries. We try to pass them around. When I'm teaching this, like I said, I just don't want to give a tool. I want to teach you how to use it as well. So we've been distributing them within the community, and we're having a vendor class later in March. We're having the opportunity for people to learn and just become better in the community and in the business that they're in.
So how can people sign up for your grant writing classes, for your action plan workshops? Where is a place where people can go to see what you're doing and how to sign up for your classes?
Sure. We do try to keep the website up to date, but sometimes, we're not always active with that as well. But LCC has the class posted already. There is a QR code on the flyers. The Chamber of Commerce does a really good job of helping us distribute some of the information and get that out there. So the Chamber website will also have this released very, very soon. And the Belize projects, I have a website that I've built myself. So if anybody has web design, I'd love to hear from you. But it's Mo Sunshine, the number 4, and the letter U.com. So mosunshineforyou.com. And you can see some of the past projects that are there and get some information on how to get a hold of me if you want to go to Belize, if you want to volunteer, if you want to just be part of something while you're here in this community, you can do that as well.
Absolutely. Monica is a connector, so if you need connecting with something, definitely reach out. And same for us. We'll help you too. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
we really
you for having me.
appreciate it.
Thank you for doing what you do, because you are the spotlight back into our communities. You are sharing the stories. And stories really do touch the heart. Facts are one thing to fill in certain information, but it's the stories. It's the stories that people connect with.
Well, we appreciate that. Thank you. We definitely want to put the person, the human behind the businesses and the nonprofits, and so that people can learn to love Cowlitz County again. We love Cowlitz County. We want everyone who loves here to love Cowlitz County and see how great it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is always my community.
Yes. And we love our sponsors. So a big thank you to them. Servpro, Longview Kelso, and JoJo and Coco Boutique. Thank you so much for sponsoring. And thank you guys for listening. And we'll be back with you next time.